Hello, everyone. Nice to see you and nice to hear from you in the chat. We'll be waiting a couple minutes, see if there's any stragglers. Hola, bienvenidos, bienvenidas. Let's see if one day we have Dharma en español. Thank you. Good evening, good night, good morning, wherever you may be. All right, everyone. So I am Sanāthavihārī Bhikkhu from Los Angeles, California. I think some of you might recognize me, but for those of you that don't, I am a bhikkhu in the Theravada tradition, specifically the Sri Lankan tradition. And I've been ordained for 5 years. I am of Latino descent, specifically Mexican-American descent. And it's good, right? Get to know me a little bit before we start the meditation. Make you feel a little bit more comfortable for those of you that haven't met me or haven't seen me already. So let's get right to it, okay? So we're just going to practice Anapanasati. No instructions, just leave it to you. Anapanasati just means observing the breath, inhalation and exhalation. If you have your own practice, jump right into it. If this is your first time, just try to gently place your attention on the breath and see what happens, okay? Just try to keep it there for the next 20 minutes and let's see what happens, okay? All right, everyone, let's give it a go. We will be practicing Anapanasati for 20 minutes. Let's begin. Now that your mind is calm, body is relaxed, you can bless yourself with your calm mind. By the great wisdom and compassion of the Buddha, truthfulness of his teachings, Dhamma, noble qualities of his perfect disciples, Mahasanga, may you be well, happy, comfortable, and peaceful. Sabitiyo vivanjantu saberogo vinasatu mate bhavantvanterayo sukhi digayuko bhava bhavetu sabbe mangelam rakantu sabbe devata sabbe buddhanubhavena sada soti bhavantu te bhavetu sabbe mangelam rakantu sabbe devata sabbe dhammanubhavena sada soti bhavantu te bhavetu sabbe mangelam rakantu sabbe devata sabbe sanghanubhavena sada soti bhavantu te. Also, through this practice, you have accumulated a lot of kusala kamma, punya kamma, wholesome states of mind, meritorious action. You can bless yourself with this punya kamma, kusala kamma. May I not fall into immature company, and may I always have good companions until I attain nibbana. Imina punya kammena mame bala samagamo satam samagemo tu yave nibbana patiya. So I would like to thank also Bhante, Sudaso, Ayasoma, and everyone else at Buddhist Insights for giving me this opportunity to lead this meditation and share Dhamma. So before sharing Dhamma, I would like to pay homage to the Buddha. Namo tase bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhase. Namo tase bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhase. Namo tase bhagavato arahato Samma Sambuddhase. All right. I hope everyone had an interesting meditation. So today's topic is, I think, true wealth or real wealth. So what is the point of generating punya kamma, meritorious actions? What is the point of developing, cultivating kusala kamma, wholesome, skillful actions? Sometimes, like in Buddhist circles, we think, so I can get a new car, or I can get a nice house, or I can find a good partner, or I can have a happy family, or so I can go on vacation, or get a good rebirth and be a deva. Or sometimes we might have, a different kind of maybe a dharmic perspective on it, a little bit more. We might think, by these merits, may I be reborn during the time of the Maitreya Buddha, so I can reach awakening during the time of Maitreya Buddha. So all these things are nice and very good. But I would say that if you are here today, then you have all the good karma that you need. So the point of generating good karma in Buddhism is not to have a more lavish life or be endowed with many skills and talents or to be born in the heavens. The point of it is to be born in an ideal situation or in the best conditions possible for you to practice Dhamma. So right now, I would argue that we're in one of the best times to practice Dhamma. None of us have to go out and hunt. We're not in a world war. We don't have to work the fields. We are also lucky. Actually, we've created good karma, so we're not lucky. We're reaping the results of our good karma in the past. This is our inheritance. So it's time to cash out now. So you've accumulated so much punya karma throughout your entire life and your previous lives since uncountable time. You've been generating punya karma to be here at this time, where you can practice in safety, where you can practice at home ordering Uber Eats or whatever. You don't have to worry about food. You don't have to worry about security. During most of Buddhist history, the complete teachings of the Buddha were not available to all the monks, not even to lay people, and they weren't accessible because they weren't all located in one place, or maybe most people couldn't read Pali. Mostly the monks or the rich people could read Pali. But now we have the suttas in all languages almost. If you go to Sutta Central, access to Insight, BuddhaNet.net, Bhikkhu Bodhi's translations. And before, you would only be limited to the teachers in your village, wherever you lived. Now you're here on YouTube Live, and you have access to, who knows, hundreds of monks and nuns and lay people who can teach you Dhamma. So you are so rich. You are truly wealthy. This is the time to cash out. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. And if the past is any indication of how things are normally, if that's the default, then we should be concerned. We should be very concerned, because this might not last long. And If we look at the way things are happening right now with this global pandemic, we notice that we're very fragile. Although we like to think that we're humans and we're so smart and strong, but we're very fragile. Look how everything's coming apart so easily. So it's time to cash out now. How do we cash out now? By practicing to whatever your capability is. Reading suttas, practicing meditation, practicing charity, good speech, good action, good livelihood. It's very important. We are all so rich. So now is the time. Please don't wait for the next life. You don't know where you're going to be born, at what time you're going to be born. The Dhamma might not be around. The Buddha on many occasions said that it's so rare to find the Dhamma and it's so rare to be born as a human. Even to be born in the heavenly states, when you look at the suttas, they would often ask the Buddha, how many people from this village, from this tribe, from this group of people have been reborn in heaven? And the Buddha would say, none. None so far. In some cases, he might say, one of them. So there's no guarantee. We have the precious gem of the Buddha Sasana. And we can practice in peace. And we can learn from so many teachers. And we have the suttas available to us. And we have so many great Buddhist commentaries from these great scholarly monks throughout history. So please, realize how rich you are, how wealthy you are. Don't wish you had more X possession or X whatever. If you are here now, you have everything that you need. Now it's just time to work the soil. So the karma is like all the soil you've been working so far. The soil is very rich now. Super, super rich. And the sun is shining. The Dhammas all over the world on the internet. All these books. So it's ready to go. It's ready for you to start the harvest, for you to start tilling the soil, cultivating it, and reap the rewards, reap the fruits, the results of your good actions. So that's really what I really wanted to share with you today. Because I know that like during this time we might kind of feel down on ourselves, like, oh, we're in a very bad time and things could be better, and we could fall into like this negative thinking. And I've seen it happening online, and when I talk to people that I know, there's kind of like this apocalyptic perspective going on. We are very, very, very lucky to be here. So, it seems like I might have had a little bit of internet problems. Can you hear me? I think I got disconnected for a second. If someone can write something in the comments. Yes. Oh, gracias. Muy bien. I just cut off for a second, I think. Interesting. All right. So, any questions, any comments? I know it's very short, but I felt like if I talked more about it, I would be beating you up or preaching to the choir, right? Oh, thank you. Yes, happy Vesak. Sí hubo una pausa, pero todo bien. Any other interesting topics, perhaps, related to Vesak or this meditation or this talk? Bhante, what do you think about the practices of merit generation on its way to cultivating jhana? So you have to have a good place, a suitable place, right? If you're worrying about food, if you're worrying about your security, if there's a lot of commotion and noise around, or dangerous animals, or it's very difficult to practice meditation and then to get into jhana. So I would say that cultivating merits is good for getting the right conditions for you to be able to practice. So that's to the extent that I would say that it's important. Okay. Yes, there's a question there. Thank you, Bhante. Your talks are always very positive and bright. May I ask you a question related to last talk? Okay. I appreciate your talks about release guilt for oneself based on right view, sammaditthi and samma sankappa. Oh, yeah, okay. Could Bhante please explain more on how to use this Dhamma not to beat oneself? So just starting off with like the very basic thing, the foundation of this whole problem is ignorance, avidya, not knowing or misknowing. A small child around, or like an animal, like a baby animal, and they do all kinds of things, but we shouldn't get upset with them because they still don't know. We have compassion and we treat them with kindness because they lack understanding, or they don't have full understanding yet of the situation. So in a similar way, some of us are like babies, but in Dhamma. We're immature in Dhamma still. And we can have compassion because it's really it's really the default. Ignorance is the default stage. So we have to come out of that default level into wisdom, knowing, and understanding. So you can, in the same way that you would be kind to a small child or to an animal that still doesn't completely understand, you can treat yourself in a similar way. You can have compassion and kindness towards yourself. So when you make a mistake, you realize, well, this was a mistake. I will try not to do it again in the future, and move on. Because if we get into beating ourselves up, it just creates more anger, more resentment, more sadness, more akusala states of mind. So the point is to generate more skillful states of mind, more kusala, not akusala. So if we get into like this negative rumination, negative thinking, patterns of thinking, we're going in the opposite direction. So we should have a sense of like hesitation to do unskillful acts. We should have some sort of hesitation to do bad karma. And once we recognize that it was unwholesome, it was bad, it was unskillful, we make a determination to try never to do it again. And we move on from there. And we can't change the past. So all we can do is try to make ourselves better from this moment on. And we can use the past to learn. We can use it in a creative way. We can use it as fertilizer for the soil towards awakening. So I know that was just a very general example, but if you want me to clarify, you can ask again. How can we develop equanimity towards people who are ungrateful for the Dhamma or hateful of it? So I think it's the same thing as anything else. People might be ungrateful for like some good action that you did for them, or ungrateful for the circumstances that they find themselves in. But I don't really see Dhamma anything different. I think if anything, feeling some sort of hate towards people that don't appreciate Dhamma might be more dangerous than the other ones. because it can lead to like some sort of fanaticism or dogmatism, and you're not a real Buddhist or something like that. So I think it is a little bit more dangerous. So we probably have to do work on our equanimity, but we just don't jump into equanimity. So my teacher, the late Bhante Punaji, he would say that the Brahma Viharas are like a swimming pool, right? And Upekkha is the deep end, and Metta is the shallow side, where you're stepping in. So he says, in order to get to the deep end, we first walk in the shallow side, right? So we have to properly develop metta, and then as we go getting in deeper into the pool, we come into kindness or compassion, karuna. Then we come into mudita. Then we come into upekkha, right? So it's something like this, or like a flight of stairs that's going up or down. The first step would be like metta, then the next step would be karuna, then mudita, then upekkha. So we just can't jump or leap to the other one. We have to go slowly. So I wouldn't try to start off with equanimity, because it might lead to like not caring, or like you might repress or suppress things in order to try to get to like this equanimous, like stone equanimity, stone Buddha equanimity. So really start off with metta. Just practice metta towards them. And when the metta has reached a certain level, then go into the karuna, then mudita, and then you'll get to the upekkha. But I think it's very difficult to like jump all the way to equanimity. It's difficult in the same way that it's difficult. Like when we practice metta meditation, we don't start off with the difficult people. We start off with someone who's like really easy, then someone who's neutral, and then like a difficult person. So in a similar way, I would suggest this kind of like gradual progression. But in another level, in a very pragmatic level, I mean, if you can avoid the person, good. The Buddha always said, prevention is the first step, samvara, indriya samvara. So if we can practice prevention or guarding ourselves, protecting ourselves, avoiding the situation, don't bring up conversations about Dhamma with them if that's the way they are. Just leave it at that. However they feel about Dhamma, that's their problem. That's what they have to deal with. Okay. And I know it's difficult to accept it, but you can just work on it by generating metta to begin with. Bhante, what's the best way to relieve sadness from realizing the results of karma will be bad for people who are dear to us? So, we shouldn't look at others too much. There's a simile from the Samyutta Nikaya called the Simile of the Acrobats. So there was the teacher and the student, and every day they would go into town and they would do gymnastics on this pole, and they still do it. I've seen pictures of it in India. This young boy will climb up a pole and he'll do all kinds of like gymnastic things up there, and the older person will hold it. So in this sutta, this simile of the acrobats, the teacher tells the student, okay, we're going to go into town, and this is the plan, okay? I'm going to watch you, and you're going to watch me. You're going to make sure that I don't make a mistake, and I'm going to make sure that you don't make a mistake. And in this way, we won't have any accidents, and we'll make a lot of money. And then we can spend it on whatever we want. Then the student goes, well, this is kind of weird, you know what, teacher? This is the plan better. I got a better plan. I'm going to watch what I'm doing up there, and you watch your job, what you're doing down there. And if we do this, then we'll be secure. We'll be safe and sound. And then the teacher goes, oh, yeah, that's what I meant. That's what I meant by it. So the Buddha said, by taking care of oneself, one takes care of others. And by taking care of others, one takes care of oneself. So really, we should be more concerned about our own actions, because they're the only ones which we can have an impact on. We can't change other people's minds. We can't force them to change. If we could change them, or if we could do anything, the Buddha would have done it, right? When the Buddha was here, he would have just snapped his fingers and made everyone into arahants. But it didn't happen, and it can't happen. And the Buddha saw many people that he loved face the difficult consequences, painful. His whole kingdom of the Sakyans got destroyed. You know, the whole kingdom, they all got murdered by a neighboring king. And he tried to do something to stop it, but the invading king found the way around the Buddha. So really, we should focus on ourselves. And the more we reduce our own unskillful actions, our own unskillful states of mind, we can be like an example for others. So when they do get that little light bulb that turns on the head, they can go, oh yeah, that's the way over there, you know? Now that I realize that what I was doing is a problem or it brings suffering to myself and others, they know where to go. But if we're always resentful, or if they always see us sad, then they might look at them and be like, well, this person's always sad. They're always angry. Like, why should I try to be like them? You know, it doesn't seem like they're very happy or they're at peace or anything like that. So I would really suggest, you know, I know it's difficult, especially if it's your mom, your spouse, or your kids, or your father, or someone like that. It might be very, very difficult. But we can't control them, and them experiencing the bad results of previous bad actions is fair, right? Although we don't like it, it's fair. So there's a conflict here. What we want, the way we want things to be, and the way things actually are. So the whole point of understanding samadhi is to come into consonance with the way things are. To understand that everything that happens due to the presence of the necessary conditions. So once we understand this causal relationship, we shouldn't feel sad because we know it's fair or just, or the way it's supposed to be. Although it's difficult for us to accept. So we should accept reality and not get caught up in how we want things to be. There's where the suffering comes from us wanting things to be another way. How should we contemplate the Brahma Vihara's awareness? Releases to let go of and realize Nibbana. Contemplate the Brahma Vihara's awareness. Releases to let go and realize Nibbana. If this is too off topic, please. I don't think I completely grasped that question. Can you clarify, please, and send another message? Bhante, I wanted to thank you for the previous talk you gave on the Brahma Viharas. Your discussion of kindness and action was very helpful. Thank you. Okay, no worries. Thank you. For someone who is socially orientated, how can they begin cultivating metta in their meditation practice? So metta for oneself is really the root, because in the Sutta Nipata, where the Buddha talks about like generating metta, or how one comes to generate metta, he says, as am I, so are they. As they are, so am I. Taking this into consideration, what should not harm other living beings. So once someone really values their own life and recognizes that the goodness of their own life, the wholesomeness of their own life, then you just have to extend that to others around you. But if we still criticize ourselves harshly and we beat ourselves up and we think we're not good enough, or we hate ourselves, then it's going to be difficult, because we're the example to spread metta. We're using ourselves as the example, the Buddha said. So if there's no good example to start off with, it's pretty difficult. So when I teach metta meditation, I always say start generating metta towards oneself. And then you share with others. So I like to use an example, like you can only share what you have. So you can't let someone borrow something if you don't have it. So I would really try to focus on yourself first, and then you can expand it to your community and expand it to the entire world and all beings throughout the universe. Bhante looks very happy. Yes, it's very difficult with family. There's a sutta where the Buddha says that our family is the cause of our suffering. I'll save that for another day because people get upset with that sutta, but that just goes to show you that, it's very difficult with family. Oh, Cheto Vimutti. I've never heard it translated like that. Oh, you learn something new every day. Cheto Vimutti like that. Yeah, so usually like when they talk about liberation of mind, it's within like the context of like jhanas. And I can't recall right now if the Brahma Viharas reach that level. I know the Brahma Viharas, if you practice it with the 7 factors of awakening, it starts you with the release of the beautiful, or the perception of the beautiful, and then ends up at the perception of nothingness. And that's the farthest extent that it goes to. But I can't recall right now. Nothing's coming to mind. This awareness released through goodwill is fabricated and intended. Continued. Oh, I'll have to take a look at that. Now, whatever is fabricated and intended is a constant subject to cessation. Oh, so I think the key here would be this part. Whatever is fabricated and intended is inconsistent and subject to cessation. So I think that's the key right there to the Cheto Vimutti. And then the Brahma Viharas is just like a way to get the mind tranquil or peaceful enough to be able to perceive this part right here. So Bhante, we combine samaditi, we are ignorant, and sama sankappa, no hatred together to overcome criticism. Also, samavayama, because in samavayama you recognize when there's an unwholesome state in the mind, and then you instead cultivate a wholesome state in the mind. So when you see sadness or any other kind of unwholesome state, you replace it with a wholesome state. So Brahma Viharas are like a foundation, and but any level, any awakening would have to do with understanding like anicca, dukkha, anatta. Other groups during the time of the Buddha also practiced Brahma Viharas, but they weren't even sotapannas. They never got any level of awakening. So it's really understanding like samaditi, Four Noble Truths, paticca samuppada, understanding these kind of concepts that gets the different levels of awakening. And the Brahma Viharas are just like a foundation to help you to get the mind calm enough or peaceful enough or unified enough to be able to perceive that. Because if the mind is full of hate, full of greed, full of egocentric thoughts, you can't see clearly. Kind of like the example that the Buddha gives of the hindrances, the 5 hindrances. The water is muddy, the water has dye in it, the water is turbulent, the water has algae on top. So what the Brahma Viharas would do would help you like clear up that water. And once the water is clear, then you can penetrate. You can see thoroughly to the bottom part of it. And when you can see clearly the state of vipassana, you get that seeing clearly, then you would get the knowledge or the awakening. Oh, someone put it here. The simile of the pool. Thank you. I didn't see it until now. Yes, Gabriela. So you would use all the Brahma Viharas, metta going into all the way to upekkha, and then I can't remember this. I think that's that sutta that they just shared right now from the Majjhima Nikaya, where it says that, and also there's another one from the Samyutta Nikaya, which I shared last time, also about the combining the 7 factors of awakening with the Brahma Viharas. Whatever is intended is inconstant. I would have to look at the context of that one, Sally, and I'm not really familiar with this translation of it. I'm more familiar with I don't know if this is it, but I'm mostly familiar with Bhikkhu Bodhi's or some of Ajahn Sujato's translation from Sutta Central. Sure. I'll find a way to post it up there, and the link to the 7 factors of awakening and the Brahma Viharas sutta. Yeah, Greeno Bino number 1. Yeah, that's a good one too. All right, any closing thoughts or comments? I know Bhante likes to keep this to 1 hour, and we're approaching it in a minute or so. Metta is one of the greatest wealths of merit. Yes, so metta can generate a lot of merit. The Buddha said in one sutta, if you could sit under a tree and cover that area 100% with metta, then it would be more than serving so many dishes of plates morning, evening, and all day for 100 years. So just practicing completely engulfing metta for one area is greater than giving food for 100 years or a lifetime. So yes, metta in itself is a powerful way to generate kusala kamma, punya kamma. All right, everyone. Looks like we're coming to a close. It was nice to see. I recognize some of the names again. So it was nice to see some familiar names. I appreciate the questions. I'll make sure to share the sutta that I talked about, and yeah. So if you have any further questions, I'll put my email here where you can always reach out to me. So now in the chat, I put my email, casadebhavana@gmail.com. So if there's anything else, sometimes, maybe tonight or tomorrow, you'll be like, oh, what about this? Or, oh yeah, now I get it. So you could send me an email to casadebhavana@gmail.com, because if not, then you would have to go through Ayasoma and Bhante Sudaso, then they have to send it to me, and that's a long way around, and I don't want to bother them. So you can just send it directly to me. Oh, love the name, yeah. All right, everyone. That's it for today. May you be well, happy, comfortable, and peaceful. See you next time. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.